around the corner there, Marty. But
Yeah.
all I see is an eyeball, and it looked like his mouth was moving. There's
Oh yeah, his mouth moves. Yeah, he has to make sure I can get on PowerPoint. He's afraid for me not to be able to get on PowerPoint because I threatened him. I told him, you better be on standby because you'll have it to do if I can't get on. So he's making sure I get on.
Sure, that's a wise man.
Go ahead, Marty.
Oh, okay. She said, go ahead. So I guess so. So I go, where'd it go? Go, yeah, there.
Now you see over there on the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you go up here.
And now go from the beginning over there.
Go back up here.
No, just use your mouse. Go way up here in the corner.
Here. Oh,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Now,
There.
see right here?
Uh-huh.
Hit that little dot. Or use both hands and do it that way. Yeah. The corner with your right.
Like that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You can still barely see the corner. Okay.
Yeah.
You're good. All right, I'm out of here.
Okay. I think he's glad to dump me. Tell Linda I said hi. Where's it? Okay, we're gonna prove, of course, we all know that our God's the greatest God, but we're gonna prove it. You might say the plagues of Egypt sent upon, you might say the plagues God sent upon Egypt was a contest between him and the pagan gods of the Egyptians to prove to them which God was the greatest God, and of the Israelites or the gods of the Egyptians. The Egyptians had many gods. That is why there had to be so many plagues to prove to the Egyptians that all their gods were false and unable to combat against the God of the Israelites. Exodus 7:3-5. Carol, I think you have to start because I think Violet went to Roku.
Okay. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not harden unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth mine armies and my people and children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them.
Jehovah God had to bring many plagues upon the Egyptians to prove his superiority over all their gods. Exodus 7:8-12.
And the Lord spake unto Moses unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers. Now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods.
The symbol of Egyptian power, especially associated with the Pharaoh, was the cobra. The pharaohs of Egypt often wore crowns with a golden cobra coiled on top. Even though Aaron's rod prevailed over the rods of the Egyptian sorcerers, Pharaoh refused to let God's people go. So, let's see. So who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. Exodus 5:2. God is planning to act in such a miraculous manner that everyone will know that he is the Lord. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. Exodus 7:5. God shows Pharaoh who he is. By the end of Exodus 14, with Egypt destroyed and all their gods defeated, all their firstborn dead, and the entire army dead on the shores of the Red Sea, Pharaoh will know who the Lord is. But for the present time, Pharaoh responds to Moses' request by making life harder for the Israelites, Exodus 5:3-20. So the next morning, Moses and Aaron met Pharaoh by the Nile River, Exodus 7:14-21.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come. And the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thy hand. And thou shalt say unto him, the Lord God of the Hebrews hath sent me unto thee, saying, let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldst not hear. Thus saith the Lord, in this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river.
Go ahead and finish it, Ed.
All right. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, upon their ponds, and upon all the pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in the vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded. And he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants. And all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river. And there was blood throughout the land of Egypt.
By turning the water into blood, Jehovah defeated Khnum, the Egyptian god of the river. They were so dependent upon the Nile for water that it was worshipped as a god, as well as many as some of its fish. To turn the Nile to blood was to overpower the god that they believed brought life to Egypt. Exodus 8:1-6.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, go unto Pharaoh, and say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. And if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs, and the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into thine house, and into thy bedchamber, and upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thine ovens, and into thy kneading throws. And the frog shall come up both on thee and upon thy people, and upon all thy servants. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch forth thine hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and caused the frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt.
Yeah. The Egyptian god that was defeated here was Heqt. I don't know how to pronounce it. The frog-headed goddess of resurrection, the wife of Cunam. These frogs were the small Nile frog called Dofta. The Egyptian magicians could not remove the frogs, for Pharaoh was obliged to send for Moses and Aaron to intercede with Jehovah to take them away. This request of Pharaoh was a sign that he regarded Jehovah as the author of the plague. The first plague turns the Nile into blood. The Nile was a symbol of Egypt and represented Egyptian prosperity and power. Thus, the red blood symbolized the death of Egypt itself. Keep in mind that Pharaoh had been killing the Hebrew babies by throwing them into the Nile. The second plague also connects back to the death of the Hebrew babies. In the religion of the ancient Egyptians, the god and protector of pregnant women, Heqt, was usually portrayed in the form of a frog, because in Egyptian thinking, the transition from tadpoles to frogs symbolized the growth and birth of the human babies. Exodus 8:8-11 and 13 and 14.
Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, glory over me. When shall I entreat for thee and for thy servants and for thy people to destroy the frogs from thee and thy houses, that they may remain in the river only? And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank.
This plague must have been very aggravating to the Egyptians, for the frog not only was included among the sacred animals, but it was the second time that the fertilizing water of Egypt had become a plague. Exodus 8:16 and 17 and 19-24.
And the Lord said unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out thy rod and spread the dust of the land, excuse me, that it may become lice throughout the land of Egypt. And they did so, for Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hardened not unto them as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he cometh forth to the water. And they say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me.
Go ahead.
Well, I can't read that. It's just teeny tiny.
Oh, sorry.
I'll read it, Marty. Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses, and the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground wherein they are. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth. And I will put a division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. And the Lord did so. And there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarms of flies.
The god that was defeated here was Beelzebub, the prince of the air. This plague also stopped the Egyptian sacrifices because of cleanness issues. Exodus 8:29-31.
And
Yeah.
Moses said, Behold, I go out from thee, and I will entreat the Lord that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people tomorrow. But let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully anymore in not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses. And he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. There remained not one.
Exodus 9:3-6.
Behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thy cattle, which is in the field, upon the horses, and upon the asses, and upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep. There shall be a very grievous murrain, and the Lord shall sever between the cattle of the Israel and the cattle of Egypt, and there shall nothing die of all that is the children's of Israel. And the Lord appointed a set time, saying, Tomorrow the Lord shall do this thing in the land. And the Lord did that thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died. But of the cattle of the children of Israel died not one.
This plague was against Apis, the sacred bull. Exodus 9:8-10.
And the Lord said unto Moses and unto Aaron, Take to you handfuls of ashes of the furnace, and let Moses sprinkle it towards the heaven in the sight of Pharaoh. And it shall become small dust in all the land of Egypt, and shall be a boil breaking forth with blame upon man and upon beasts throughout all the land of Egypt. And they took the ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses sprinkled it up toward heaven, and it became a boil breaking forth with blame upon man and upon beasts.
Boils are supposed to inhabit the God of medical cures. Exodus 9:13-14.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thine heart, and upon all thy servants, and upon all thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth.
Exodus 9:18-19 and 22-26.
Behold, tomorrow about this time, I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as hath not been seen in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. Send therefore now and gather thy cattle and all that thou hast in the field, for upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field, and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die.
Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch forth thine hand toward heaven, that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt, upon man and upon beast, and upon every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt. And Moses stretched forth his rod toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and the fire ran along upon the ground, and the Lord rained he foundation thereof even until now.
So there was hail.
Wait a minute. My deal's not here the same. This plague showed weakness of Nut, the sky goddess. The hail was accompanied by thunder and lightning, the lightning coming down like burning torches. Multitudes of men and beasts were slain, trees and herbs destroyed, and the havoc caused by this plague was greater than any of the earlier ones because it destroyed men also. Exodus 9:27-29 and 33.
So there was hail, and fire mingled with the hail, very grievous, such as there was none like it in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail smote every herb of the field and brake every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, there was no hail.
This plague showed the weakness of Nut, the sky goddess. Okay, accompanied there in thunder and lightning, coming down like burning torches. Multitudes of men and beasts were slain, trees and herbs destroyed. The havoc caused by this plague was greater than any of the other because it destroyed man also. We got mixed up a little there. Okay, 9:27 to 29 and 33.
And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Entreat the Lord, for it is enough that there be no more mighty thunderings and hail. And I will let you go, and ye shall stay no longer. And Moses said unto him, As soon as I am gone out of the city, I will spread abroad my hands unto the Lord, and the thunder shall cease. Neither shall there be any more hail, that thou mayest know how that the earth is the Lord's. And Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh and spread abroad his hands unto the Lord, and the thunders and hail ceased, and the rain was not poured upon the earth.
Exodus 10:3-7 and 12-15.
And Moses and Aaron came in unto Pharaoh and said unto him, Thus says the Lord God of the Hebrews, how long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow will I bring the locusts into thy coast, and they shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. And they shall fill thy houses, and the houses of all thy servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said unto him, How long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet that Egypt is destroyed?
Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thy hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail has left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts, and the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt and rested in all the coast of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there was no such locust as they, neither after them shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened. And they did eat every herb of the land and all the fruit of the trees, which the hail had left. And there remaineth not any green thing in the trees, nor in the herbs of the field, through all the land of Egypt.
This plague opposed Nipri, the grain god. The fact that the wind blew a day and a night before bringing up the locusts showed that they came from a great distance, and therefore proved to the Egyptians that the omnipotence of God reached far beyond the borders of Egypt and ruled over every land. Another miraculous feature of the plague was that its unparalleled extent, that it was over all Egypt, whereas ordinary swarms are confined to a particular district. Exodus 10:16-19.
Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin, only this once, and entreat the Lord your God that he may take away from me the death only. And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord, and the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locust and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in the coast of Egypt.
Exodus 10:21-23.
And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt. 3 days they saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings.
This was an attack on the god Re, the sun god. I know one time we were in a cave, and some of them go really deep. And when we got really deep into the heart of the earth, they turned the lights out to show us just how dark it is down there. And it's a darkness you can be felt. Of course, it was just off a few seconds, but we didn't dare move. I can't imagine having that kind of darkness for 3 days. Re was the major deity of Egypt, and Pharaoh was known as the son of Re. The plague of darkness was a statement of the superiority of Israel's God over those of Egypt. Exodus 11:1.
And the Lord said unto Moses, yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether.
This last plague attacked all of the gods of the Egyptians. Exodus 11:4-5.
And Moses said, thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beast.
The firstborn of the Egyptians were smitten at midnight, as Moses had declared to Pharaoh it would be. The final plague is the death of the firstborn, especially Pharaoh's. Pharaoh was a human version of Osiris, the Egyptian god of resurrection. Ephesians 12:1-7.
And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it, according to the number of souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening, and they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it.
The lamb was an attack on the Egyptian god Ammon, the head of all their gods. He was presented in human form, but his animal was a ram. The month of Passover was also in the month of Nisan, the month when the Egyptians celebrated the deity of Ammon. The 14th day of the full moon, which the Egyptians considered the principle of Ammon's power. Sacrificing the lamb demonstrated that Ammon had no power at all. Through the plagues, Jehovah shows himself to be the true creator and deliverer. He parted the Red Sea for the Israelites and drowned the Egyptian army when they tried to follow in Exodus 14. 1 Samuel 5:1-4.
And the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it to Ebenezer unto Ashdod. When the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. And when they of Ashdod rose early in the morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. And when they arose early in the morning, on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both of the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him.
Dagon had to, you might say, bow, or in this case, fall before the God of Israel. 1 Samuel 5:6-9.
But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of the God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us and upon Dagon our God. They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them and said, what shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? And they answered, let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about unto Gath. And they carried the ark of the God of Israel about thither. And it was so that after they had carried it about, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction. And he smote the men of the city, both small and great, and they had emerods in their secret parts.
They decided to test the God of the Israelites to see if their troubles were sent by him. 1 Samuel 6:7-12.
Now therefore make a new cart, and take 2 milk kine, on which there hath come no yoke, and tie the kine to the cart, and bring their calves home from them. And take the ark of the Lord, and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold which ye return him for a trespass offering in a coffer by the side thereof, and send it away that it may go. And see if it goeth up by the way of his own coast to Beth Shemesh, then he hath done us this great evil. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that smote us, it was chance that happened to us. And the men did so, and took 2 milk kine, and tied them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. And they laid the ark of the Lord upon the cart, and the coffer with the mice of gold, and the images of their emerods. And the kine took the straight way to the way of Beth Shemesh, and went along the highway, lowing as they went, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And the lords of the Philistines went after them unto the border of Beth Shemesh.
Of course, we all know that the kine would not go off and leave their calves except God be guiding them. And the Philistines were glad to send the ark of God back to the Israelites. 1 Kings 8:18-19-39.
Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between 2 opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And ye call on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and says, it is well spoken. And Elijah said unto the prophet of Baal, choose ye one bullock for yourself and dress it first. For ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, and put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even till noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they looked upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth, but must be awakened. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after the manner with knives and lancets, till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied unto the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. And Elijah said unto all the people, come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. And he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to their number, of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order and cut the bullock in pieces and laid him on the wood and said, fill four barrels of water and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, do it a second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, do it a third time. And they did it a third time. And the water ran round about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces. And they said, the Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is the God.
Now we all know that you use water to put out a fire, not start a fire. But the prophets of Baal couldn't get him to start a fire on a dry sacrifice, but Jehovah started a fire on a very soggy, saturated sacrifice. Daniel 1:1-2, and 5:1-4.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God.
Go ahead.
Belteshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belteshazzar, whilst he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple, which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem. And the king and his princes, his wife and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold, and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone.
They were drinking wine out of the sacred gold and silver vessels of the true God, and giving praise to the pagan gods of gold and silver when God sent them a message. Daniel 5:5-6.
In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the baluster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that smote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another.
Daniel was brought in to interpret the writing in Daniel 5:23-28 and 30.
But hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives and thy concubines, have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain.
And of course, it was the Medes and the Persians that slayed them and took over the kingdom. Other times God proved to the pagans that he was in control was when the 3 Hebrew children were thrown into the fire. Daniel was tossed into the lion's den, and David met Goliath. Daniel 3:1-6 and 12-28.
Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, and the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors and captains, the judges, treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. They stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried out, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. And whoso falleth not down and worship shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made, well. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might, pardon me, my monitor just died.
That
I
they
lost
might
my, go ahead.
that they might not serve nor worship any God except their own God. Not only did God deliver these Hebrew children with not a sign of fire upon them, but the king's men that tossed them in the fire were slain from just the heat. They didn't make it to the flames. The God that was defeated here was Mazda, the God of fire. In verse 15, Nebuchadnezzar asked, Who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? In verse 29, he has found the answer. He says, There is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Daniel 6:16-22.
Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a
Lamentable.
voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said unto Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God whom thou servest continually able to deliver thee from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angel and hath shut the lion's mouth, that they have not hurt me. For as much as beforehand innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt.
God protected Daniel from very hungry lions. Verse 24 provides just how hungry they were. Daniel 6:24.
And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. And the lions had the mastery of them, and broke all their bones in pieces, or ever they came at the bottom of the den.
1 Samuel 17:43-51.
And the Philistines said unto David, Am I a dog that thou camest to me with staves? And the Philistines cursed David by his gods. And the Philistines said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou camest to me with the sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. That this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God of Israel, and all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword or spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass when the Philistines arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof and slew him and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled.
The giant was sure that there was no way a slip of a young lad could best him. But with the one true God on our side, we will win the victory over any false god. Psalms 96, 4-9.
For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Honor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Give unto the Lord, O ye kindreds of the people. Give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due his name. Bring an offering and come into his courts. O worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Fear before him all the earth.
Deuteronomy 10:17, for the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords. Then in the New Testament, Jesus walked on water, calmed the raging sea, turned the water into wine, multiplied the loaves and the fish, healed the sick and raised the dead, cast out demons, rose from the dead, and ascended to heaven. I think we've proved beyond a shadow of a doubt to anybody that our God is the greatest God of all. I don't know how to get this off of PowerPoint, but I have a picture of the boils that to show you if we can get this off of, get the PowerPoint off where you can see it. So how do I get this off?
If you look,
stop.
Marty, you'll see
Yep.
something that says stop share.
Yeah, I found it here. Just where's my, there it is. Okay. There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Okay. Can you see that? Is it showing up?
Oh,
That's what the boils and blains look like.
oh,
I've seen years ago, I've seen a woman that wasn't that covered, but had that same type of thing all over her face.
wow.
It's like you say, Linda, it's anyway, that's it for me for today.
Thank you, Marty. That was very good.
Yeah, it was really good.
I found it very interesting how all the different gods were respected. And I was shocked when I found out that when God had the Passover, how it coincided with one of their days that put that one, another God under.
That was good, Marty.
Yeah,
My computer monitors have gone nuts. I'm going to have to.
Well, you only
Leave
liked
and
a
try
few
to come
words
back.
finishing.
Well, I'm going to have to leave the meeting and then try to reboot and come back in, see what happens.
And I'm gonna go ahead and turn the YouTube off and start it again, so it'll be ready when Donnie gets here. And that was good, Marty. We
Thank
do
you.
have a great God. That's
We
very
do.
true.
The
It's
greatest of all.
Ah.
The reason I put a question mark, the greatest God question mark, was because we were going to prove